Welcome to the Red Bean Podcast, New Orleans edition. This is your host, Mr. Toad.
And I'm Dr. Frog.
So, the episode we're going to be talking about today is kind of a mixed mash. I had to talk to you about it because we're going to be talking about women getting punched in the face in New York. Did Diddy do it? P Diddy.
So two topics, a 2-for-1.
A 2-for-1. I think the audience is going to enjoy not one, but two different stories that result in, maybe bad decision making, maybe a story about fleeing from law enforcement, or two, maybe law enforcement's kind of helping this, land this baby.
Certainly. One's about misdemeanor assault, and the other's against crimes against humanity, something along those lines. Oh, my goodness.
So what gets me about the New York situation, so if people aren't familiar with what's going on, essentially New York has been passing more and more progressive laws to basically bail reform, in which no one can actually get bail now. They just let you out now.
Yeah.
And as far as I can say is we've seen things becoming more and more violent, and it seems like people don't stay incarcerated as long.
Yeah.
They just seem to keep releasing them over and over again, and unfortunately, we now have a spree of, I would call him the serial puncher of New York.
Okay.
He's
serial meaning multiple times, not he's a breakfast connoisseur.
Yeah, he's not like I'm gonna eat some breakfast, some Lucky Charms, and I'm gonna go out and start cracking some heads.
Going to the Irish bar fight.
Yeah, but his
St. Patrick's Day a week or two ago, maybe it coincided with that.
He's fighting out there. He may not be a fighting Irishman, but he's definitely a fighter for sure. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's fighting for, but technically with this individual,
maybe he's trying to find it out. Maybe this is part of the character arc in his.
I kind of look at him as an aspiring boxer, but the problem is he hasn't been able to find the boxing gym, but he does find random women walking down the street, though.
Yeah, so maybe he saw that movie where there was an aged-out boxer who, wants to become champion again.
It kind of reminds me of the wrestler, like the wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Rocky had to start by chasing chickens, right?
Yep.
So this guy
punching meat at
punching the dead animals, right?
Yeah.
But PETA probably didn't like that, the punching of the dead.
Yeah, they probably.
So instead, this modern Rocky starts with randomly clocking ladies in New York.
Yeah, it seems like he has a pretty.
His training regimen doesn't seem very effective, though. It's raising a lot of alarm and concern in New York.
What I think is interesting is that this totally goes by policy, by the way, if people aren't familiar.
Yeah.
And what's happening is that because they passed all these really progressive laws, essentially, I would say this is a promotion of criminality. It's getting to the point, as far as I'm aware of, is that the state of New York has issued a state of emergency, and now the National Guard is in the subway system.
Really?
Yeah.
So people aren't standing up and applauding this puncher for exercising their.
He might be exercising his ability to use his body, but he's definitely not exercising his.
Well, I feel like what's really preventing an even stronger backlash is there's obviously. I think it's pretty obvious in this case that there's mental illness involved.
Yeah.
And so when there is mental illness involved, I've been attacked several times by a homeless on the street. And,
sure.
And it's very different if someone attacks you and they're mentally ill versus someone who's cognizant of what's around them and are sure of what they're doing.
Definitely.
It's a very different kind of punch. I've also been punched, actually, on the subway in New York back in 2009. There was a drunk teenager, and they started swinging during, after New Year's. But I think there's a couple ways to handle this. Whenever that happens, I didn't necessarily go to TikTok, or there wasn't TikTok then, but I'm wondering, what's going on here is obviously misdemeanor assault. And it doesn't seem to be harmful enough. I haven't seen any bruises on the victims or anything like this. But, some people tried to show that there was a blush or redness or something. I didn't notice that in any of the pictures where they tried to point it out. But it's still something that shouldn't be condoned. But how do we deal with this? Do we use police? Do we use mental health workers?
What I'm going to say, and this is going to be a little controversial, but what I think should happen is I think New York should allow for concealed carry, and I think this is how I would do it. If I was in charge, if I was the mayor of New York City, Mr. Toad, I would sit here and say, from now on, concealed carry, and if you kill someone or shoot somebody on the train in self-defense, not only will you be given a medal for your bravery, but you'll be given a box of ammo. I guarantee you that after one or two people are shot, guess what's going to happen? Every mentally ill or violent person is going to probably have to think twice before they do something ridiculous in the subway system. But that's my opinion on it. But what I will say I think is very interesting about this guy who is going on a punching spree is that, one, they were afraid to describe what he looked like, and two, he was running for mayor.
Well,
in 2020, I believe.
I'm not sure we read the afraid to describe what he looked like in the TikTok. So, for example, in this news article from him, just make sure to look at what's on the screen. Whoops, it changed a bit. There's an important graphic up on the screen, but basically, a lot of these testimonies on TikTok, I noticed the person smiling. Every single person seems to be smiling because when it's more of an absurdity about what's happening. And it seems like with the TikToks talking about the punching and the social awareness that's going around, I don't really see a sort of fear of describing. They
almost seem gleeful in some way.
Well, it was gleeful because people smile. It doesn't mean they're happy that they got hit or something. But I think maybe it's just a little absurd when you tell the story later. For example, I was in a department store, and a group of 7 people robbed the store. They ran in there. They were by the jewelry counter. They took everything. And one lady just randomly pulled out mace as she was stealing stuff and running out the door. Just randomly pulled out some mace and maced my face, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. This is actually at the Dillards. Anyway, but the point of it was, at first I was like, wow, I never thought I'd be maced in my life. So I finally got a chance to experience what that is like. But, I was even smiling afterwards. I was like, what? Why would someone do that to me? And then it was actually a kind of interesting story. I went to a corporate event that night, and I got to tell them, I said, sorry, I'm 5 minutes late. I got maced on my way here. And they thought, what? Some random thief just decided to mace you, But, so there's an absurdity to it where it isn't life-threatening. Luckily, good problem. I mean, if maybe the person isn't, if they punch someone who has brittle bones, for example, or another condition.
The other aspect,
it could be really expensive and horrible, but luckily it just seems to be people who go,
What I'm also saying is the other rumor is not only is it this one guy doing it, now there's a theory that now this new game, it's an actually old game, but it's a new game in my opinion. This is the new version, the 2.0 version.
Oh.
It's called the Knockout game. Have you heard of the Knockout game?
I have never heard of the Knockout game.
So the Knockout game is when you have random people walking down the street and you run up and you punch them as hard as you can in the face.
I've seen some prank videos on
This
YouTube.
is like a prank, but this is like pranking that's getting like
dangerous.
Like,
well, in some pranking videos, try to escalate it by going to dangerous situations and doing it. Yeah, I don't know. That's foolishness for sure.
Look at this lady over here.
I was at Chipotle once, and a lady randomly punched and then pushed me on the ground.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And it was obviously a mental illness sort of scenario. I was just standing there.
Wow.
Yeah. And you always wonder what motivates it, but another answer might just be, oh, well, that person did it. Nothing was injured, or I was fine.
I think what gets me with this whole situation is that this is a disaster. We'll show some videos as we do this, but
yes.
We have images of police officers, National Guardsmen, the mayor, they're all trying to control the situation that they themselves
really
created.
The image of security. They're trying to create the image of security.
I would almost say that even if you were tackled by, and I'm not saying to go out and do this, but
see, what's more important is the belief that crime's on the rise.
Yeah.
Belief. It's not about. The truth is, all of us can commit crimes.
Sure.
I mean, in a logically possible way, not physically or necessarily, right? But all of us can sort of do that. What prevents all of us from not doing this, however, is this, adherence to a social order and construct that says, yes, this is inappropriate, and then of course our morals and principles and these sorts of things. But so what matters a lot for these politicians is the perception of crime more so than the actual events. None of the events of this serial puncher led to any injuries, from what I could tell.
Wow.
It'd be similar to if someone just randomly slapped someone and ran away. Or Will Smith, let's say, doing a slap on Chris Rock. No one was arrested,
Yeah.
But people went, that shouldn't be allowed, but what do we do with mental illness in Will Smith's case, right? The way that you solve it is by suggesting therapy and, hoping that the individual works through their issues, but...
So overall, we have women getting punched in the face in New York City.
Yeah.
By random individuals. Yeah. It's I should put down aspiring boxer.
The punch hurt around
Apple. The serial puncher. We're going to call him the serial puncher of New York.
And the Big Apple.
At the Big Apple. Because he likes his apples with his cereal in the morning.
I was about to say, healthy.
And he never sleeps,
Does he never sleep? Is he the opposite of, he's not the hero this city...
He's the villain of the city.
He's the city this hero doesn't need. He's the hero this city doesn't need.
Yeah, it's like, we don't really want him to be here, but he's here anyways, and he's just creating a nuisance and a problem.
It would be like if you had a squirrel exterminator hero in a place where there's no squirrels.
Exactly.
Like, well, you're either doing a really good job or you're just not needed here. Right? So this is the serial puncher. Probably shouldn't be running around New York.
He's like, man, I gotta train for the Olympics, but I can't.
Training for something. Training for jail.
I know he's training for prison.
He's
training for prison.
Jail's less than a year. This is a misdemeanor, I figured.
But for him, he's like, I need to rack up my knockouts. I need to at least,
I like to assume this is the New York version of what Rocky would be. Philadelphia has Rocky. And this is basically the Rocky if it was downtown New York.
This could actually kind of be a movie. Could you imagine? I know this would be a very controversial movie, but it'd be a movie where this guy's like training all the time. He's like lifting weights, and then one day he's like, all right, I'm ready to do what I need to do. And he goes out, and the first thing he does is walks out and he punches some lady in the face.
Oh,
and that's the whole movie. And that's the whole movie.
Yeah, and then it screeches to a halt. Very Monty Python-esque, Holy Grail-esque, right? The police wagon pulls up. And
they can't find him.
What did I do? And they arrest him, and then they drive away. The credits roll, and you're like, "Wow, there's the boxing champ tried to
what is it?
Reclaim their throne and got it.
0 losses, 1 knockout, and 5 victories or something. You know how they give the stats of the boxer? That's how it would be. He would just be like the ultimate fighter.
Or each one of those is a failure more so than a victory.
But maybe in this particular story, he wears a mask, and throughout the whole story, he's just punching random women throughout it. And then the police are trying to go after him, and he just keeps talking about, like, I want to be the best boxer imaginable.
It seems like he runs after punching.
I would think for him, punching means that... Well, I would say it's a dominance.
Would you want to interview this person and say, what does punching mean to you?
I kind of want to call this guy and interview him. Like, why do you go out and punch people? Are you training for the Olympics?
And you know what?
Do you want to be an amateur fighter?
I wonder if he targets women because there's less of a physical threat of recourse.
Or retaliation.
Yeah.
Or I think
like if he punches a guy, that guy might chase him down and tackle him.
But I think for the most part is that when he punches women, I think for him he gets this whole thing of, I punched her, she looks shocked Because I imagine women are completely shocked when this happens because it's never happened.
I think anyone
ever.
would be, yeah.
Of course, anybody.
Yeah.
But even more so, I would say with women because normally they have like a sense of security or, because they know, because they can call the police or there's a lot of police. You have a lot of people who'd stand up for a woman, of course.
I wonder what neighborhoods he's in New York. So I spent some time in Uptown Bronx area. My parents one was born in Queens.
Okay.
I just wonder what neighborhood he's doing this in. Because it's going to be very different if you're walking around Times Square doing this versus, Central Park or something.
Yeah, because my whole thing with the punching man, the serial puncher.
Is there a pattern to it?
Is there a pattern to the punching? But this could also be the knockout game, like we said before.
So imagine you wake up, you go to your work from your 8 to 4, 8 to 5, and then you change out of your work clothes, and then you go down the street, and then you get your daily stretching in, so you don't pull any hamstrings, and then you do a punch or two before you go running home.
Hey, you know what?
And making political TikToks about how horrible the world is to you.
Exactly. It's kind of like,
and then waking up and say good morning to your teammates at work.
I had my 2 espressos and I had my 2 knockouts.
Oh, last night was rough. I had to, Well, hey Simon, why is your hand bruised? Yeah. Oh, there's a hobby in the evening.
Yeah, it's like
I was playing pickleball, and then I ended up
hitting my fist
deciding
really hard
and blocking someone on the way home. It's like, what do you do with this?
Oh yeah.
I you know what? What do you think that one guy would say if try that in a small town?
Oh yeah.
Try that in a small town.
Try that in a small town. It'll be the last thing
you'd have like the 3 victims, and they would all know where you live, and everyone would know in the town, and you'd not be welcome at the general store.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be welcome at the public pool. You'd be banned from the public pool.
See, this is where like the public or the
you can't go to the baseball games. You can't go to the baseball games.
Hey! You can't be a serial puncher.
And you know what? I think if he was put in that environment, I don't think he would be punching. Because the 12 people, the 70 people in the town. You wouldn't,
My whole thing is if you concealed carry and they actually respected Second Amendment self-defense.
Brand new people who've never seen him punch. When he walks out his front door, brand new people, never seen him punch.
Yeah, but they will know.
Imagine if everyone knows. Imagine if it was the same people walking down that street.
Our next story, though.
Sorry about that.
Our next story would be about the P Diddy story.
Yeah.
Did Diddy do it? I mean, I think has always been.
Did he do it? Oh, that's a good wordplay. Did he do it?
But essentially, what's going on is P Diddy or Sean Puffy Combs has been suspected of
it's bad.
A bad boy.
It's bad when they start calling rappers not by their rapper name but by their it isn't P Diddy committing a crime. It is Sean Combs.
Sean Puffy
use
Combs.
that mothering full name. That's how you know you're in trouble. When your mom used your full name in an angry tone, that's how you knew you were serious. When reporters start saying Sean Combs had his house raided, his $40 million mansion raided, right?
Yes. The whole case is crazy because I think they found some firearms that were unregistered.
Well, supposedly there
drugs and
potentially minors at larger parties.
There might be a dungeon involved or something.
Let's just say S workers.
Yep.
I think that
we got to keep it PG-13.
It is, yeah. But bad boys for life.
Yeah, he's being a bad boy.
Now he might be, facing bad boy for life. He might be facing a trial.
But the way I look at it too is that he's worth hundreds of millions or something.
Yeah, I think
he's way up there, and that's I seriously doubt. I mean, depending on the way the case goes,
you think he can buy freedom?
I think he can either buy the freedom or he's going to get it, or he's going to go into a minimum security prison, which basically is kind of like a there's like rich people prison, and then there's everyone else kind of prison.
Oh, okay.
So the rich person prison, you basically have to practice your backhand with the tennis racket.
Oh, there you go.
But in the regular prison,
you got to practice your forehand.
You have to really practice your uppercuts, and then you have to expect. This is when the serial puncher is really going to come in handy.
He's going to meet the serial puncher.
You might meet the serial puncher in the other kind of prison, not the fancy one. I don't think he's going to make it.
I still think that,
How crazy would it be if Sean Puffy Combs' prison roommate is the serial puncher of New York?
I mean, just the
how
crimes
crazy would that
being
be?
Leveraged against them are so different. One person, it's. I don't think he's going to face any jail time even.
Do you think if Sean Puffy Combs got into a fist fight with the puncher, who do you think would win, the serial puncher or Puffy?
No, I looked at Puffy, and I looked at both of them.
You measured them up. You're like, hey, if these guys got into a fist fight, who would win?
There was a picture of him outside of his Miami residence with no shirt on. And Puffy's built kind of got a little bit of a pudge, but his one way you can tell the guy, I think, and let me know if I'm wrong, is if their pectoral muscles go out further than their gut.
Yep.
Then you know that their upper body is strong.
And there's going to be some swinging involved, and that swing is going to be...
I saw it was about even, but I think the pectoral muscles on Sean Combs was a little bit bigger than the gut. So, you're looking at someone who potentially works out, maintains their body. The serial puncher looked really skinny.
Definitely more on the homeless side.
Now, the puncher has had at least 5... more outings than Puffy. So he actually has more experience punching people in public.
It's hard to say if the puncher has more experience than Sean Puffy Combs, because who knows what kind of stuff was going on in the mansion.
We'll have to see what's recovered
the court
from
case,
maybe the electronics,
I mean, could Sean Puffy Combs had unregistered fights going on in his mansion? That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's impossible. We just need the evidence for it. We're just speculating right now.
I think he was married, so maybe that's...
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
Here's some information. The puncher...
Just in breaking news.
Yeah, the breaking news. Yep. He definitely was punching and...
$10,000 bail?
$10,000 in bail, which I'm very surprised.
Look, they caught him. Within the time of us talking about it, they caught him. I think the satellite cameras are already pinpointed and tracking them. I'm just kidding.
But overall, I think...
But look, see, they're smiling. The victims are just kind of... But it's the smile, not of happiness, at being randomly assaulted. It's more of just, this is absurd.
I think what's happening here is simply this, is that you have these women, they're getting on TikTok. Look at me! I can't believe I got punched in the eye. And then that's the whole story. And then they're getting attention. Of course they should be getting attention because they're being...
What was this? 10 years ago, there was... being harassed in New York, right? And that lady did the walking.
Yeah.
And people were saying, hey, beautiful, what a nice day to walk,
Oh, the
hey,
catcalling.
You're doing great. I hope, you should smile. You seem really tense. You're doing great. And now we've gone 10 years later to randomly punching. Imagine if there was a randomly punching video 10 years ago.
Oh, that would be sensational. That'd have been crazy.
Woman walks through New York and then she just randomly gets punched. That would be, 10 years ago, that would have, I guess it's making national news now, but, I don't know. I just see a difference. A little more violent, maybe. I don't know. What
I think is happening is that right now, the leadership of New York has failed the people.
You think it's... Yeah.
I think it's a failure of leadership. I think it's a failure of taking action when they should be taking action. This would all be over, like I said, if we had just allowed concealed carry.
Look, I don't think adding gun... Well, this is just me. And look, I didn't grow up with...
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Shooting ranges are fun, though. But I think that adding guns to this scenario wouldn't necessarily help.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The serial puncher...
Someone with a mental illness who slaps someone or gives a punch, it's fine. Like, they need help, right? Is the way I look at it. Here's the thing that's different, though. The reason I don't blame the politicians, it's tough. I blame the individual.
Sure.
But I think that in a big city like New York, I'm just surprised that worse things don't happen.
Yeah.
In the same way, whenever you have a large amount of people in a small area, someone's going to be punching someone.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised there aren't more random punchers out there.
Well, overall...
So only one made the news, not 10.
If we had to guess, and we had some money to throw down, would you say Sean Puffy Combs or the
we're going back to
puncher
Puffy,
guy?
Yeah.
I kind of want to know if these two guys got into a fight, who would win?
Are you saying?
I think the audience should say
Are you saying
one
bare-fisted fist fighting?
bare-fisting in New York
no
street.
bodyguards.
No bodyguards. Sean Puffy Combs does not have his bodyguards.
I think Sean Combs would go down.
You think Sean Combs would get beaten by
the crazy puncher? I think he's got some of that crazy old man.
The serial puncher.
He's got some of that crazy old man energy. And here's the thing, Puffy, I think he's just not ready. I think he's more talented and stronger and athletic, definitely. But I don't think I don't think he's been in an actual fight recently. There's a hardness. They talked about this in Fight Club.
Yeah.
And I did over a decade of martial arts, then over a decade of wrestling, right? And I've been in some fights,
Okay.
And you get a kind of toughness, right? Or it's like someone punches you, it's fine. Now, if you don't get in fights regularly and someone punched you in the same way, you wouldn't bounce back as quick.
No.
You'd be down, it would really hurt. So I think there's this old man toughness about the random puncher. I'm going to have to side with him over the celebrity that's probably lived a bit of a cushy life.
I have to say, because I think the puncher has the best shot. So I think
Diddy, afraid of a lawsuit, would run around in circles.
I think
try to avoid the.
I believe this. I think the audience who is listening to us should say in the comments section, you think you decide who's going to win this fight. Is it the puncher, the serial puncher, or Sean Puffy Combs? Who would win a fight? Type 1 if you think the puncher, the serial puncher, is going to win. And then if you put 2, that means you think Sean Puffy Combs is going to win.
How about this? If it's a short fight, I think the serial puncher. If it's a long fight, I think stamina-wise, Sean Combs is going to win out. I think he's more endurance. And I think he'd pick up
I think the serial puncher, he's good for one punch and then he's out of there.
I don't think
he's really he's not a 2-punch guy. He's a 1-punch guy. He just sock him and then run.
Would you call him a 1-punch man?
I'd call him a 1-punch man. If anyone knows what we're talking about, that's an anime reference. Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name. Starts with an S.
Yeah. But what I think is interesting about this story is that, there's kind of a decay going on in New York, and hopefully there's some point in the future, maybe people respect the Second Amendment, maybe they respect self-defense.
There's nothing funnier than two Southerners making fun of New York. How crazy is it?
I just think they just need better leadership, and I think that if people are able to defend themselves and not feel like their lives are at threat.
I love the way your mind works. You're just like, man, if everyone had a gun there, it'd all be cool.
I tell you, my thoughts...
The lady would shoot the guy the first time he laid hands on her, and no one would care. They'd be like, all right, you defend yourself, honey. Walk away. So
I did some research. A couple months back. Yeah. And so I've always enjoyed a good Western. Westerns are great. Gunslinging, all that stuff.
Hey, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, good and the bad, the ugly.
Fistful of dollars, $2 more. Yeah.
Outlaw Josie Wales.
Serena Morka.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. I kept thinking to myself, okay.
Cowboy Bebop.
We have, exactly. That's kind of a Western in its own front. But basically, what I started to realize was the most violent city back in the Old West was Dodge City.
Yes.
Dodge City. You know how many people died in like 10 years? It's like 50 people died in 10
Only
years.
50.
I know. I was like, the thing
Go
that
to
shocked
Chicago
me,
just
I know. Like,
10 years ago.
Within a month, you'd already hit 50 people.
Well, population density goes back to my point.
Yeah, but the same...
And Dodge City had 2 million people in it.
Yeah, but even then, it was like the percentage of people dying was so small and infrequent that... And this was considered the most violent city. I wonder the
per capita death, though. Dodge City might have been ridiculous compared to the population.
Yeah, they said that was the most violent city of the Old West during that time period. But here's the thing about this, is that because so few people died, what I'm saying is that because there was an implied threat, let's say, hey, if I fight somebody, they're going to pull out a gun and they're going to shoot me.
So this
how likely? Because this is mutual destruction.
So this is a little bit off topic. I hope the audience isn't too distracted by it. Have you ever been in a rough part of town and you pretend you're packing even though you're not?
Oh yeah.
If you
roll your fist in your pocket.
Yeah, you roll your fist in your pocket a little bit, and you know the threat's there.
Yeah.
But you just want to make sure, like, hey, sometimes I just hold up my. I got my hand on the waist of my.
Yeah, you put a sock or somewhere.
Well, no, I just, I hold that up. Like,
Yeah, okay.
Someone just thinks, oh, is there something under the shirt?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's posturing, but the implied threats there. Someone might not pull a gun on you. I got lots of friends around here who've been stuck up.
One of the
I
things...
live here 7 years or so is the average.
One of the things I've seen is that in most cases, most people do not even have to shoot the gun. Just showing the gun is enough to scare someone away.
Which reminds me, did you see the funny video of an attempted robbery? I think this is in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
A guy walks in, pretends to have a gun, hides it under, goes into like a Korean salon or something.
Oh, jeez.
It goes like, oh, give me all your money and stuff, and no one like moves or anything. They was just like looking at him weird, and he's like, and then he like walks out. It was a failed robbery because people just called his bluff that he had a gun.
Yeah.
They were just like, nah, he's not.
But this is our episode. This is kind of a culture episode, and I think the serial puncher will probably serve some time in prison. Maybe I don't know.
Or might get cereal. Might get three meals a day.
He might get a lot of cereal while he's in there.
I feel like if people are well fed, they might not be as likely to randomly punch people.
Or you just gotta talk to him and be like, "Hey man, if you want to start punching, you got to do it at the boxing group.
Do it Kimbo Slice style. Make a YouTube about it. Take on some weaker opponents. Build up a.
See, the problem is, I think if he showed himself punching women, though, I think that would probably not go over too well on YouTube.
Well, probably not.
Yeah, it would be one of those scenarios. But
which makes you wonder if there was a serial puncher for guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
People probably pay to watch that in the sport.
It almost seems like to me, and we're going to wrap this up, on Death Wish. I don't know if you've ever seen Death Wish.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
The old movie.
Yeah. Well, tell me about it.
Bronson was in it. Oh. And essentially what happened was this neighborhood was going downhill. I think it was like Death Wish 3 or something like that. But basically what happens is, he ends up getting this gun that's called the Wildly Magnum. And it's basically a hunting round. This is designed to like kill animals in Africa, like lions or crazy. But basically, there's a guy called the Giggler. He's running around giggling while he steals purses. He steals things from people. And then one day, Bronson takes like a fake bag that looks like to hold a camera in there. And there's nothing in there because he's using it as a form of bait. So he's walking in there, and he's walking around. He's kind of waving it around, and the Giggler's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get it," because he's like luring him. It's like leaving like the cheese or something, and the rat's gonna go and eat it.
Mouse,
And so what happens is he goes in there, runs in, grabs the guy's case, runs off with it. Here's the crazy part: Bronson pulls out the gun and shoots him like halfway down the street and blows him right in the back. So
halfway down the street.
Halfway down the street. See, that would have been considered bad nowadays because
unhonorable.
Too far, and he shot him in the back.
Well, and that's
he was running away.
He's not an imminent threat.
But if he's running directly at you and you shoot him directly at you, then that's totally okay. Well, it depends. I mean, don't take this as legal advice. But basically, the person has to be in front of you. They can't be behind you. Because that can be used in the court of law against you.
Yeah, but I hear it's also bad if you enter too many rounds into the body.
Yeah, you don't want to
because it can be seen as you only needed
overzealous
two
or something. Yeah,
but if there's 5, then why did you do the 5th one or the 4th one if you disarm them? Were we really under threat for those last 2?
The thing that gets me, and I think is crazy, is this idea that if you have too much training, they're like, "Oh, this guy, he got too much training." And
my fists count as weapons in court, to be honest.
Yeah. I always revert hearing...
If you're a boxer for several decades, or if you do wrestling or martial arts for decades,
So this one guy I know, he was in law enforcement, and one of the things he always did was when he was at the shooting range...
Really?
He never shot a perfect score.
Oh, no.
The reason he said he never shot a perfect score is that if he was ever in a police officer shooting, the lawyer could be like, "Hey, we know you could shoot perfectly. Why couldn't you shoot perfectly then in this particular situation?"
So he'd purposely kind of get...
So he always shows himself as not being that proficient.
Wow.
And I
wonder if that affects his pay.
I don't know. I don't know if it affected his pay. But basically what that was showing was that this idea of, if I'm too good at my job, that could be used against me.
I really think, shooting under pressure versus shooting in a
shooting range,
is very different.
It's totally different. But that's what he would
say.
But
a lawyer would.
Yeah, but the lawyers don't care. They're like, no, everything is the same.
Well, they'd have to zealously fight for their side.
Yeah, I mean,
in some ways,
just imagine the attorney's like, it doesn't matter if it's the shooting range or your living room or the dirty street.
Well, you've been trained under high pressure scenarios.
You should know what you're doing, even though you're probably freaking out just like anyone else would.
Feel like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Yeah. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So quit being part of the problem.
Oh man, I'm telling you, there's a sad thing I've been noticing with Bruce Willis. His cognition really went down.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him yet. Do you think 12 Monkeys is real?
No, I don't know, but he has some kind of a disorder right now. He's having some serious problems. So, if anything, we should always keep him in our prayers. What's going on with him and his mental issues? Yeah, he's having some serious problems. But overall, this is our episode of the Red Bean Podcast, New Orleans edition. We're talking about Did Diddy Do It and the serial puncher.
Yeah.
And overall, hopefully we'll look at your scores to see who's going to win. I want to know who's going to win this fight. Is it going to be Diddy or is it going to be the serial puncher?
Did he do it?
Did he do it? I don't know if he did.
Did he done it?
But I've always been told that a prosecutor can prosecute a ham sandwich every time.
I never heard that. So
yeah, they can prosecute anything. I mean, basically, it's like every law imaginable, you could just break them.
Yeah.
There's some laws on the book.
I've heard that similarly. There are police officers who say, you know what, you commit so many laws per second. If the police want to catch you for something, they'll watch you for a few seconds or a minute, and they can find something to catch you on.
Basic entrapment.
Yeah. Well, just there's so many things that people can be brought up on.
But maybe you won't be brought up on assault charges for throwing a fist in a cold.
He was have to say his honor was. He was defending his honor.
He was defending his honor.
That would be.
We're just
bring back duels. That's what we should do.
Yeah, the dueling will have to return. Actually, I remember seeing something, and it was something like, in the height of dueling, I think as many as 3,000 to 10,000 people died in France.
3 to 10. Wow, that's a lot.
In a single year.
A lot more than Dodge City.
Oh yeah, exactly. It was like the height of dueling, and this is my honor, and slapping someone in the face with a glove.
If only they were good at fighting in large groups against other large groups. The French, they seem to great at dueling.
Yeah, they might be good. They're good at fighting themselves, but they're probably not really good at fighting other people. But I also would say
the British for a lot.
The French Foreign Legion. I've always been told that that's a pretty tough
crowd. Yeah.
Very tough crowd. They always say they'll take anybody, but they don't take anybody. Yeah. But at the same time, they're kind of like, if you're like, hey, I have a dark past and I want a second shot.
Green Berets, is that French? Green Berets.
No, that's the United States. We have
SEALs or something.
But
is that a subsection of the SEALs?
No, which one were you saying?
Some Marines.
The Green Berets? Those are Army.
Oh, Army. Yes.
Green Berets, and they were usually like teaching like jungle combat.
Yeah, jungle combat. Yeah.
Maybe explosive devices, improvised devices, teaching people stuff like that. Actually, I had a guy come into one of my courses one time, and he was a former Green Beret. It was very interesting to talk to him about the training. Like, he would train villages and different military.
Easy there, Jocko. You got a lot of stories under your belt there. No, that's cool, though. I've worked with so many
cool
people who've seen combat.
Well, I think this wraps up our episode. Hopefully, our audience enjoyed this episode. And we want to know who's going to win.
Who's going to win?
For
Mr. Sean Combs.
No, I think one was the serial puncher, and then two was Sean Puffy Combs.
Do you think, just like a presidential ballot, the number that we place them in is going to affect the voting?
It could if people start doing mail-in ballots. You never know. Like, all of a sudden, you're like, man, I thought the population was 300 million, but now we have like 400 million.
Is between the
votes.
two. If the fill-in bubbles between both of them.
Yeah.
You don't even know what. Anyway.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to us. And if you can, try and like and subscribe to the show and let us know what you think of the show.
Certainly.
My name is Mr. Toad.
And I'm Dr. Frog.
We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.